Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to walk step by step through the form I-140, that is the Immigrant Petition for Alien Worker. And this form is one of the most important parts of applying for an employment-based immigration petition, which is the green card in the United States. And I will break I will break down section by section, showing you how to avoid common mistakes when it comes to filling this form and give you practical tips that could save you time and costly delays when it comes to ROF fees and USCIS getting back USCIS getting back to you. So I have filled the form correctly and I'm going to be showing you on the screen, and I want you to stick with me as I'll be going through how to, fill the part 6, especially when it comes to the proposed endeavor, how to fill in your address, how to, even when you have dependents, how to deal with the issues regarding adjustment of status or going through the consular processing. Here is an overview of the Form I-140. Now, I don't want to leave you without it. The Form I-140 is used by U.S. employers, that is, or petitioners, to petition a foreign worker under different employment-based categories. And the most common of these categories are the EB1A, which is the priority workers, the extraordinary ability, like the multinational executive researchers, or people with extraordinary ability in different fields. And the second category is the EB2 NIW, that is professionals with advanced degree or exceptional ability. And the third category is the EB3, that is key workers, professional or other workers that do not belong to in this category. Now, the petition must be filled by an employer or a self-petitioner in cases of EB1A and the EB2 NIW, which is the national interest waiver. And filling out Form I-140 carefully and correctly is an essential milestone for employment-based U.S. residency. Now, when we look at the form, we'll notice that this section, the part 1, which talks about information about the person or organization filling this petition. And number 1A is asking for your family name, which is your last name. So for me here, my last name I filled in John, and the given name is Mark, and I don't have a middle name. For me, this is a sample form, and I want you to follow my form step by step, because I'll be showing you how to avoid mistakes when it comes to filling this form. And we'll go to the mailing address, which is down there. You will see my mailing address, which is I'm sending it to my name, and you see my street is 21 NIW Street, and you see apartment 305. My city town is EB2, and I live in New York with my zip code, and the country is USA. Now, I want to keep in mind that in the United States, we do not have postal code, or we don't have province. Now, don't fall into that mistake of filling province or postal code, because we don't have such in the United States. Now, let's go to other information, which is number 4, IRS employer identification number, which you likely don't have because you may be self-petitioning for yourself. And number 5 says, are you a non-profit organized as tax exempt or a government or a governmental research organization? And for that one, I want you to click no. Then for number 6, they are going to ask you, do you currently employ a total of 25 or fewer full-time equivalent employees in the United States, including all affiliates or subsidiaries of this country? Now, for this one, I want you to click yes, because if you're applying for the employment-based visa, whether you are self-petitioning for yourself or a company, now if a company is doing it for you, is a different story. But if you are self-petitioning for yourself, it is assumed, because it's an employment-based visa, that you employ fewer than 25 persons. So in that case, you will click yes. Now, if you don't click yes, your petition is likely, it's going to be sent back to you for incorrect fee payment. And when you click yes, your fee is going to be $1,015, $715 for the I-140 form, and $300, which is the asylum fee, because you are helping those who are filing asylum to pay this payment. Now, but you might be asking, I'm not filing for asylum. Why do I have to pay this fee? I don't know how to explain to you. This is the law and this is how it works. Now, again, you click no for number 5 and click yes for number 6. Now, they are going to ask you that for USCIS, for your US Social Security number, for those living in the US, they might have Social Security number, and we'll go ahead and we'll fill it in there. And if you have a USCIS online account number, you are going to give it to them. Now, the next one, we're going to see the part 2, which is the petition type. Now, you will notice that I clicked the number 1A, which is the alien of extraordinary ability. Now, the only way you will click number 1A is that if you are actually applying for EB1A. But if you are applying for EB2 NIW, you are going to click 1H, which is an alien applying for an NIW who is a member of a professions holding an advanced degree or an alien of exceptional ability. Now we go down to part 3. It's going to be asking you information about the person for whom you're filing. Then you fill out your name, family name, and given name. Then we'll go to mailing address. Again, you give them your mailing address. And for me, my address is number 21 EB1A Street, apartment 305, and the city or town is extraordinary ability. I live in New York, and my zip code is 12345. Now, zip codes in the United States are usually 5 numbers, so you want to go ahead and put in the zip codes in there, and you put in your date of birth. For me, it's 1999, and the city or town in which I was born is Waiver, and the state is Waiver. That is it. And my country of birth is Nigeria. My country of citizenship is Nigeria. But when we go to the point where they are asking for alien number, if you have an alien number, you want to give it to them. And for me, I put in my alien number and my social security number. Now, they want to be asking that if you already live in the United States, there should be a time when you first arrive in the United States, and that is the date of last arrival. And for me, it is 1st of February 2024. And they also want to ask you your I-94 arrival date. Now, you can always go online to check your I-94, where you check the record number. You want to give them the information, and you also put an expiring date of your authorized stay shown in Form I-94. Now, for some people who are here on F1, they are likely not going to have an expiring date shown on their I-94. So sometimes some people put sometimes online you will see DS, right? Or there is no information displayed. But some people have a particular date displayed on your I-94. You want to go ahead and put it in there. And for 11C, they're asking for status. It might be F1, H1B, B1, B2. You want to put in your status and your passport number for number 12, and your country that issued you the passport, which is Nigeria. And you put the expiring date of your passport. You put it in there. Then on part 4, which is the processing information, that is where we are. That's if you are outside the country, that is if you're not residing currently in the US, you want to click that you will apply for visa abroad. You click number 1A, and you also will put in the city that you want to apply that visa from, and you put in the country. But if you are inside the United States, that is, you are going to be applying for adjustment of status. So you want to go ahead, omit 1A to 1C, and you go ahead and click 2A. So let's move ahead. Let's move ahead as we go through this whole thing. And they will also ask you your current country of residence. If now in the United States, last country of permanent resident abroad. So for me, it's Nigeria. You see my PO box. I put in my address. I put in the city or town where I live. I put in province, which is Ikeja. I put in my country, and which is Nigeria. So then we also have to go to mailing address. You will see I put in care of Paul Mark, which is my name, right? This is not actually my real name. I'm just using this name for the NIW or the Form I-140 purpose, right? And you see my PO box, which is Lekki, Ikeja, and Nigeria. Then we'll go to 6B up to 10. Now 6B, if you are not filing concurrently, you don't need to touch anything on 6B. But if you are applying concurrently, for those who are applying for EB1A, you want to go ahead and click the I-485 and I-765. Only if you are doing the Form I-140 with the green card application at the same time. If you are not, you just leave the 6B blank. But we'll come to 7A. You want to click it that you are not in removal processes if you are not really. And you also want to click no, that you've never petitioned an immigrant visa on your behalf, if that is your case. And you also want to say that this is that you are not filing a labor certification, if that is also the case, right? And for 10, if you are filing this petition without an original labor certification, you want to click no. Now, for those petitioning for themselves, you're likely going to click no for all of these, right? Then we'll come for part 5, which is additional information about the petitioner. They are asking a type of petitioner, and if you are self-petitioning, you will click 1B, which is self. And for the other information from number 2 to number 8, you just leave it blank. But sometimes you want to put an information there, and if you want to put in an information, you want to put in NA, N stroke A, N stroke A, N stroke A. Then we'll also come to part 5. We'll leave it blank up to 10. Then we'll move over to number 11. Now, for number 11, you want to put in your current occupation that you occupy. That is your current job and the title of your occupation and the salary. And for me, I'm a senior lecturer, and my salary is $250,000. Now, let's continue as we look at in part 6. And like I mentioned below, part 6 is where people where people used to have problems with USCIS, and USCIS sends RFE asking them to complete part 6 of their Form I-140. Now, if you have actually received RFE on Form I-140 regarding this same part 6, right, I want you to go ahead, leave me comments in the comment section below. Tell me what USCIS is asking of you, what you left blank, and how you end up responding to this part of the I-140 petition. Now let's continue looking at what we have before us. That is the part 6, basic information about the proposed employment. Now, they are asking us that the job title. Now you will notice that they are asking us for job titles. Now this part of the petition, this part of the I-140 is usually tricky, because some people will go ahead and put in what is related to their proposed endeavor, which is what I strongly recommend. Now, put in a title, a job title that relates to your proposed endeavor. And for me, is a senior lecturer, and the SOC code, you want to look it up online. Now, you might not see senior lecturer as an SOC code online, but you might find post-secondary education in whatever field, might be foreign language or for something. Now, this is what I put in here. And they're also asking me for job, non-technical job description. You also want to give USCIS the technical job description that relates to your proposed endeavor. You don't want to put in something different. And you also, I would recommend that you find something that is online that relates to the SOC code that you find online, and put it in the non-technical job description. Now, they are asking also, is this a full-time position? And I want you to go ahead and click yes. Now, you might be wondering that you don't have a job already. You don't have a job, so why would you click yes? Keep in mind that the employment-based visa is assumed that you already have a job, and you do not need a job offer to apply for the NIW or the EB1A. This is enough to justify why you want to click yes, that this is a full-time position. And they're asking you if it's a permanent position, you want to go ahead and click yes. Is this a new position? Yes. Now, if at all you might want to give them the salary wage for this. And for this work site location, if you're already working, right, it might make sense to put in a work site location of where you currently work. But if you're not working, you want to put in NA. Now, people have put in NA, people have left that blank, people have put in their current place of work, and everything went on fine. I don't see USCIS having troubles with this particular part of the petition. But I would always recommend that you put in NA or to be determined on this part of the petition, which is the work site location. Now we'll come to part 7, which is information about the spouse and all the children of the person for whom you are filing. Person 1, and I put here that the family name is Mark and the given name is Cynthia. I put my date of birth, which is the 2nd of January 2020, and the country of birth, Ghana, and my relationship with this person is my spouse. And number 5 is asking, is he or she applying for adjustment of status? Now, I click yes because this person is in the United States. So if the person is in the United States, you have to click yes because the person is going to be applying for an adjustment of status, right? That is adjusting status from one particular visa to the other, maybe from F1 to green card or H1B to green card. And number 6, the question for number 6 said, is he or she applying for a visa abroad? No, because the person is already in the United States, right? So I want us to get this right so that we don't make mistakes in our visa processing. And for person number 2, I put Rose and the family name is Mark and the date of birth, I put a random date, and the relationship is my daughter. And is he or she applying for adjustment of status? No, because this person is outside the United States. Because you are outside the United States, you are not going to be applying for adjustment of status. Rather, you'll be applying for visa abroad. And that is why I click yes to question number 12. And you are going to be doing this for all the children that you have. And I'm assuming you don't have more than one spouse, but one spouse and several children. So this is how you fill the form I-140. Then we'll go to page 6, and for page 6 they're asking for contact information, certification, and signature of the petitioner or authorized signatory. And for me here, the authorized signatory is John Mark, and I put my phone number and I put my email address, which is the uscis@gmail.com. This is just a random email. And you should not forget to sign section 6A, which is petitioner or authorized signatory signature. And you should put your signature on that place and date the document. And with that, you are certifying that the information that you've given, it's actually to the best of your knowledge, the truth and nothing but the truth, right? And that should be it. I don't think you have any other thing to fill in, except you have any other information you want to give. Maybe like you have an expired passport and you want to give more information about the expired passport. Then you go to the last page, page 8, additional information. Then you state your reason. Maybe I have an expired passport, or I have something going on somewhere that is related to your immigration document, especially with this I-140. And I don't think that is anything. I don't think I have anything else for you. Thinking that you've gained value for this video. If you think that this video have actually helped you to understand how to fill your form I-140 accurately and very well, I want you to go ahead, like my video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as I'll be making more videos on how to help you become successful in your immigration journey, and share my video with your family and friends. And that is it, your guide to correctly filling out your form I-140. Remember, small mistakes can lead to months of delay, that is RFE. So I would advise you to double check everything before you submit your form I-140. Now, and with good preparation and attention to detail, the process is smooth and manageable. And I wish you the best of luck in your journey towards your US green card.